welcome back to my YouTube channel. Okay, so in this video I jump straight back into the video of my custom project for Asimo's grave. So that is the memorial that I designed and created for part 1. So that previous part 1 video I completed around a week ago, and I did complete a significant part of the stainless steel surround, probably around maybe say about 70–80%, but of course there's more detailed work required yet. In this video part 2, I will use my skills to continue this project to levels beyond, where I specially form a plaque holder and I also prepare a grey-white marble slab, all whilst finishing this stainless steel surround off. Regarding the marble slab, a bit of work is required here as well, not only to make it fit the beautiful stainless surround I created, but also to give it an appealing look. So remember, this was a coffee table covered in mug marks, so it needs cut. It also needs sanded, lacquered, and more. As explained in part 1, the marble effect on this slab compared to other slabs was very like Asimo's wolf grey fur coat. So other slabs were much more, had too much white in it and not enough grey, and the pattern just didn't look right. So there was no debate over the selection of other slabs. This slab was always going to be used no matter what the work involved. So as discussed in part 1, near the very end of the video, the slab is only 15mm thick and to be used outside. So this requires additional reinforcement and sealing from environmental conditions. So what I'm going to do is the idea is to create some sort of a structure or reinforcement bar within the surround. I also might create or cut and fabricate a plate to sit underneath the slab. So say like maybe 3mm stainless plate or 4mm, depending on what I have in the garage. So when that's complete, I will then seal the slab using car lacquer, acrylic lacquer. When that's complete, I will then go through different stages of sanding, then different stages of machine polishing to give it a glass-like finish. So let's get started here where I left off in part 1, which was the fancy stainless steel surround. Then I will move on to the stainless steel grave marker. Then I will move to the slab. So hopefully this goes well here. Okay, so I went ahead there and cut these 4 pieces of stainless steel. So these are for the final part of the surround. These will help shape the outside of the surround by pulling the faces in square. So here we go. I'm going to place 1 fold on each of these now. Perfect, 90 degrees. So we have 4 to do here. Perfecto. So this is the longer, one of the longer sides. So these will need mitered to match the surround. Obviously it will be done by hand. Okay, so my next step here now is doing this piece of stainless. So I need to place 4 folds in it. So this will hold the 2 plaques, and then this will hold the bigger plaque, and it will be spot welded to the triangle as such. So we'll do that in a moment. Okay, so I am now on to the plaque holder. So again, this is made out of stainless steel. I have this template that will be used to cut those half circles out, those semicircles. So what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to fold the two faces that will rest on the marble slab. So here we go. So that's one done. There we go. So I'm now on to the middle here. So we're going to shape it into a V now, sort of like a pyramid. What do I see here? I'm going to have to mark this out instead. I have it marked, so I'll just go for it. It's going to be tricky to do this. Take two. Okay, I'm going to have to turn this around here. Actually, I'm just going to fold it the way I had it. Nearly done. Okay, there we go. Job's a good one. Okay, just going to give us a wee push in the middle here to bring this angle into 50 degrees. So here we go. Not easy. Getting this bang on centre. Okay, so that looks grand. Good job. Okay, so I am on to the final step here of the surround, well, the final major step. So we have the four pieces sitting here ready to be, well, I have to do work on them yet, but let's first give a wee demonstration here of what exactly these pieces will do. So I've already mentioned this earlier. So these four pieces now will be placed at the bottom of the surround. They will be spot welded to this face, this edge, this lip, and to the lower end of this folded edge seen here, this folded face. So what I need to do here now is miter each one of these pieces. So at the two ends at 45 degrees. So I'm going to take these outside now and cut them, but I will demonstrate cutting one of them. So it's the same process as cutting the surround, only a lot simpler. So what I will need to do again is remove the film approximately about 25 mil away from where I will place the cut at each end of these pieces. So again, these pieces are required not to close this area or this space in, or this gap. They're there to keep this outside face nice and straight. So if you imagine when I spot weld this, these two edges will work together and keep a nice straight line. Well, that's what I'm hoping. So before I go outside here, I just want to demonstrate. So if you haven't already, please see my custom, my very special, unique pneumatic DIY spot welder. So I created this a long time ago. So I'm going to use this DIY project for this project to complete it, to weld these four pieces to the surround. So what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to move straight outside and get these cut and get this thing finished once and for all. Okay, so the first step here is removing this protective layer so that the grinder doesn't melt it. So roughly cut just with this bit of copper. So when I turn this over the body now to cut, the cut mark will end up around here, 25 mil to the side of the film. So here we go. So what I'm going to do this time is mark it rather than scribe it with a knife.
Doesn't need to be as accurate, but I will do my best to keep it on point. So this needs to be now cut to, I think it's 1064 millimeters. Yeah. So I'll put a mark on this first. So we're squaring it off the straight edge and not the folded edge, because the folded edge is a wee bit wavy, you know. Looking good. So I'll put the mask on here. Okay, so I'm going to cut the other 7 sides, then I'm going to tidy them all up and we'll get them placed into the surround. Good job. Okay, so just a wee sample here of tidying this cut edge up. So I'm using the flat end of a disc here. Works a trick. Okay, so yesterday I complete these 4 pieces, these 4 stainless sheets. So as I mentioned, they're there to support these sides, to allow these sides to be nice and straight. So I'm going to start off here placing them in. So I have already made them to fit, obviously. So I need to clamp each one of them. So a bit of work on this. So what I need to do here now is clamp this piece in the middle, but before I tighten the G-clamp, it's a 2-inch G-clamp, I have to push this out, like so. I can use my foot too. So that's one piece in, ready to be welded. So now I'm going to move on to this long side, which is number 2. So I have them marked here on all. So as you can see, we have minimal gap here. So that's good, keeps the bugs from getting inside the surround. There should be no gap actually when I push this out. There we go, gap eliminated. So again, clamp this one in the middle too. Looking good, ready to be spot welded. Now on to this, the third piece. So I'll go for this back piece first. So I have cleaned the inside of the surround here. I know you're never going to see it, but me being me, I'm not fussy. So we're going to clamp this one in the middle too, and we're going to push out like so. That's good enough. So the gap is very minimal, very, very small. It should actually disappear, you know, when I put this last piece in. So that's the last time that will see daylight in there. So I spent quite a number of hours yesterday getting these to fit as neat as they are. And this last one might be a bit tricky to get in. Yeah, it is. So they slacken this. There we go, finally. A wee bit of messing about there, but it's all ready to be welded there now. So, what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to TIG weld this edge. So, where this overlap and this overlap or this fold meets. So the reason I'm not going to spot weld here on the side is because you would see it within the grass or the garden. Depending on how short the grass is or how long the grass is. What I am going to do is I'm going to demonstrate using my DIY spot welder on these parts. So I'll bring this welder up, I'll bring the camera up nice and close to the welder, and I'll bring the TIG welder into view too. Well, we have the torch here and the spot welder here. So here we go. We'll bring the camera up here now. All's good? Okay, so I have the 4 pieces set onto the surround. What I'm going to do here now is start off working in this corner and work my way around. So I'm going to start off with a TIG welder first, tacking these 2 edges together where they meet. I need to make sure that these 2 edges are flush. One is not prouder than the other. So here we go. I also have to clamp them. So this is going to take a wee bit of time. So I have the film peeled where I'm going to tack. So that's one side nearly done. So actually I'm going to do this side first to stay away from the spot welder. Okay, so that's 2 sides complete. I'm going to actually turn this around to do the other 2 sides. Hopefully without wrecking it. So the spot welding will come as soon as I get these 2 sides done. So let's see if I can lift this here. Bear in mind this is 2 sheets of stainless steel. Why? It's looking solid. Oh, jeepers, it's heavy. Look. Don't want to scratch it. It's looking the part, hey? It's looking the part. Oh dear. That'll be handier than trying to work around the wall there. Sweat's rolling off me. Okay. So, we'll work down this side here now. Start off at this point again. So what I'm doing here is aiming the needle towards the center of the surround to keep minimal heat within this face here. We don't want to distort it. We don't want the tack to show up. That would probably make more sense. So here we'll keep working down. No, actually, I'll go down here first. We might need a wee bit of rod to do this one. The fold is a wee bit past 90. And I pull on once I weld it anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Looking good. A bit of rod helps there. Okay, so one side to do, then we're on to the spot welding. So this will be the first time I ever, with that tractor passes, this will be the first time that I ever use my DIY spot welder to do work on another project. So those welds are low, the lowest part of the surround. A lot of work in this, a lot of work. As you can tell, it's not exactly a piece of steel, like you have to be very careful not to mark it when you're building it. So a couple of tacks left to do, and I am complete. Then I will move on to the pegs that will support or secure the surround into the ground. So the same pegs that you have seen in the early model, 3D model. One tack in this corner. That's it. So on to the spot welding now. So that is the 2 faces together here at this point. Looking well. so I'm going to demonstrate using this DIY spot welder here now to weld this. So just need to make sure I get this pneumatic airline in the right place, right position. So we're going to test this here now. We want a weld, I'd say about there. So it's pulsing at the same time. So there's one weld. I'll put another one here. Good job. One more at the side. Some force in the pneumatic cylinder. So that's it, complete at that end. So I'm going to do the rest off camera here because the camera's in the way. So if you haven't seen this spot welder, I'm going to take it off a stand here. If you haven't seen that DIY spot welder, do get a look on my channel. There's a full video of the building, the manufacturing, and everything, the polishing, the electrical side, the mechanical side, the pneumatics. So I'm going to finish this off now off camera, and then we're going to move on to the pegs. Looking well. Okay, so for this next step, I have folded this angled profile. So basically what I'm going to do here now is cut it into 4 and weld them onto the bottom of the surround for spikes so that the surround doesn't move on the ground. I may add a bit of concrete around these spikes once the surround is in position. I haven't made my mind up yet. So let's cut these now. Good job. Okay, so we have a wee problem. Well, I did have a wee problem. So initially the idea was to weld these spikes onto the base of the surround. But the problem was when I tacked one on, it was very flimsy. So I had to come up with another plan. So as can be seen here now, I have cut out 4 squares, 4 notches. So these notches now allow me to weld directly to the heavier sheet, which is 1.5mm. This top sheet is 1.2, so the only thing supporting this top sheet to this heavier gauge stainless is these spot welds and this tack. So as I say, when I tacked one of these angled pieces onto it, it was kind of flimsy. We don't want that. So the plan is now to weld these new spikes, which are, 1.5" tube, stainless tube, directly onto the 1.5mm stainless. So that is the top of the surround, which is the thicker grade stainless. So, well, both grades are 304, but this is 1.5 and this is 1.2. So what I'm going to do here now is put the camera on the stand and start welding these on. It'll take a wee bit of work here. As can be seen here now, there's a little slot where it's open to the top part of the surround. I might leave this to allow water to drain out, or I might seal it up, I'm not sure yet. It doesn't really matter because it's stainless. It just stops anything going on there, such as bugs and things like that. I might put a wee bit of seal on it and leave maybe 10mm exposed or so, or 5mm exposed to let the water out. So I'll put the camera on the stand here and I'll start welding these on. Okay, so the first important step here is to make sure that I don't burn through to the other side. So I'm going to place this piece of stainless in as a heat sink and clamp it to the bottom part of it here. There we go. So my next step now is to get one of these tubes, put it into position, square it up, and tack it on. Okay, so that looks good there. Welder set around 60 amps. So these spikes are required to keep the surround secure in the ground. They don't really need to be concreted in or cemented in, but as long as they're into the clay part of the ground. So we'll square this up and we'll finish off welding it. Then I will complete the rest of them off camera, speed things up here. So the heat sink's there to keep me from burning through the 1.5 mil at the other side, as I'm welding at 60 amps, 65 amps. Okay, so I will weld the rest of them off camera to speed things up. Then we'll move on to the next stage. Okay, so I'm nearly there. I have 2 of the spikes complete. I have them stitched here and there around the tube. So just to demonstrate here. So I have squared these tubes off this face, these 2 faces, where the 2 sheets meet the strongest part of the surround. So what I need to do here now is finish off welding these 2 other spikes onto this side. Then I will move on to drilling the holes that allow the water to drip off around the slab. So these holes will be maybe 5 mil at the corner, at the 4 corners. After that, I will move on to cleaning the surround, and finally I will move on to finishing the plaque holder off. So looking well. Okay, so I am ready to drill these 4 drain holes. So I'm going to be using a 5 mil drill and a bit of CT90 cotton fluid. So I need to place this hole as tight as possible in the corner of the surround and on as low as possible. I might need to get in the surround here into the middle of it. A wee bit of pressure on the drill. Okay, so that's 1 drilled. I think I might have hit the sheet underneath, but I got luck. That's alright. So it's just because I'm angling the drill bit, sort of a 30-degree angle. I might actually drill other ones at a 45-degree angle. The drill bit's not great, but it's all that I've got, so I have to keep going. Whoa. Drill bit's taking a beating. So it's sore in the drill bit here because I'm drilling between 2 sheets, or a joint. And we're just hitting the stainless sheet that's used to support the sides. Just touching it. So that's 3 done, 1 to go. Can't wait this is done because it's dodgy. Whoa. Okay. So that's it done, the sweat's running off me. Thank goodness it's done there. Okay, so now on to the plaque holder. So this is the item that I folded when I folded the parts for the bottom of the surround, the parts that support the sides. If I haven't done already, look how neat the sides of the surround are now. They're nice and straight, widthwise and lengthwise. So the sheets underneath, the parts I should say, underneath spot welded to this lip and tagged to this face are now doing their job. So my next step now, as I say, is moving on to the final part of this project. So that is this plaque holder. So the plaque holder is more or less finished, but I want to add character to it. So to do that, I'm going to follow the 3D model that I created. And well, here's the template that's formed of the 3D model. So what I need to do here now is cut 4 holes. The diameter of these holes is 145 mil. So I'm going to take this plaque holder outside now, cut the 4 holes, bring it in, weld a stainless steel plate to it, an A4 plate. There it is down there. So this plate is used to hold the bigger plaque on one side of it. That will be TIG welded to it, be tacked 4 places. So we'll take this outside now, but before that, I'm just going to mark it in the shade because it's kind of windy outside. So just to point out here, I'm not using the paper template. I've found this ring, this plate, this circle plate. What I'm going to do here is use this to mark the plaque out. So basically what you will see here is the 2 feet as demonstrated in the 3D model. So here we go, I'll get started here. So it's starting to look apart. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do here is remove the film from, say, an inch or 40 mil above the circle plate. So here we go. So using the copper knife that I made earlier, well, I made it 4 weeks ago when I started this project. So we'll do this side too. I need to be careful here not to mark underneath this, but I need it gone to cut it. Okay, so my next step now is using this plate that I have made up. I need to watch the surround here, so I'll work on my knee. So I'll demonstrate what I'm going to do here. Need to be sure not to mark this. So I'm just going to put a black mark around the plate when I have it lined up here. Say about there. Tricky, so it is. I've already left a wee mark on it, but I can get that mark out of it at the end up. So I'll demonstrate marking this end, and then I'll put the camera down because I don't want to make a mess here. Listen to my belly. Okay, so making sure that the 2 circles are at the same height. Going by eye just here. Okay, that will do. So that's what I'm looking to cut out. Them 2 semicircles. So I'll mark the other side, I'll take it outside and cut it. Good job. Okay, so to start this task off, I'm just going to cut away at this half semicircle or half moon circle, and then I'm going to tidy it up here with this die grinder. So what I have done here is just covered the areas of the stainless that the likelihood of it being scratched, well, it's quite possible. So I'm going to go ahead here. Okay, so that one now can be finished off with the die grinder. So I'll go ahead here, cut the 3 other holes or half moon holes, and then we'll demonstrate tidying one of these up with the die grinder seen here. So it has a carbide burr in it, and it's an awesome machine. So I'll finish this off, I'll cut these 3 holes, and then I'll start videoing that process. Okay, so the 4 holes are complete, well, the 4 semicircles. So as you can see, the design aspect is much better. The plaque holder now is much more appealing to the eye. So if you can imagine now looking down at this onto a white marble slab, you will see more of the slab. So what I like to do now before we move to the die grinder is basically chop away at these larger lumps. So this is just to reduce heat from the carbide burr going into the stainless. So the more wee cuts there is, the better. The faster it will eat the material away. So I'm just going to demonstrate doing this here now. Okay, there we go. So moving on now to the die grinder. Starting to look well. Okay, so I changed my approach to this on the way I'm going to remove these little pieces. So I'm just going to use a grinding disc. One that has been used, not a new one, because a new one would only dig into the 1.2mm stainless. So I'm going to go ahead here and start grinding all these. So after they're grinded, I'm then going to file them into shape. Okay, there's one done. So I will finish the other three off and then I'll demonstrate filing them. So grinder's much better for this bigger work than the die grinder. So because it's so thin, the grinder has no bother doing this. So it's a good job. Okay, so I have the 4 semicircles cut out. I have them grinded. And now I'm just going to finish off these edges with a file. So here we go. I'll just do a quick demonstration of this. I've already started here, so we'll keep at this for a minute. So basically what I'm doing here is removing any grinding marks, any dips, any bumps, following the permanent mark. Making sure to move the file back and forward, not sitting on the one spot. So you can already see there that it's starting to look better already. So down to this point here now. Okay, so I'll finish this off camera and I will then demonstrate welding the plate on it for holding the larger plaque. So starting to look apart. So that will sit in the middle of the surround like so on the slab. Okay, so I have all the cross filing done here. So what I'm going to do now is basically run the file this way. So draw filing to leave a nice smooth face here, a nice smooth edge. So you can see already it's coming up nicely. So there's a bit of work involved in this, getting it to this standard. So there's a nice sort of like a brushed finish on it there now. So I'll keep on going here. Nearly ready for the A4 sheet, the stainless sheet, for the larger plaque. Looking good. So that's it done. Now you're ready for the A4 sheet, so I'll do that now. So just before I weld this plate on, I want to give this edge a wee polish with a Dremel, so here we go. Looking well. Ready for paint here now. Okay, so on to this final step. So we want the brushed finish out the way. So we need this facing down like so. So keeping this flush to the bench, I will then place this part on like so. So the stand is attached to this plate. So what I need to do here now is place 4 wee small tacks on this, but first I have to square it up. I think it might be better to take it off the bench for the meantime to do this. Okay. Okay, so I'll place 1 tack on this. The height's not really important. As long as this plate is below the semicircle hole a little bit, that's all that I want. So I'll put a wee small tack on this now. So what I'm doing here is using this bit of stainless at this end as a heat sink to keep the weld from burning through. Okay, now I can place it on the bench. So it's important here that I square this plate up. Tricky enough. Okay, so that's 2 tacks on it. 2 fine tacks. I'll turn it around here now and put 2 more tacks on it. Okay, so approximately 20mm down, the same as the other side here. So we're using the bench as the heat sink this time. Keeping the gas on it to keep the weld nice and clean. Okay, so I'll place maybe 3 or 4 stitches in this, just so it doesn't break, the wee small tacks there. So I'll start off down here where I've placed the last tack. Okay, there's one. The heat sink is very important here. Very important. The positioning of it is crucial. Two done. Three done. So I'll bring the camera around here. Complete. That should hold it. Good job. Aye. Okay, so I've decided to go ahead and cut the slab myself so that it fits into the surround that I have made. So the reason I'm doing it myself is because I can't get any company in Northern Ireland, well, to reply to a message. So I'm just going to go ahead here and cut it with a grinder, an angle grinder and a diamond disc. So before I do that, I just want to give a discussion on what it is I'm going to do. So initially when I purchased this tabletop, this marble table, I decided to keep this pattern up to this point. So cutting 200mm off. I've now decided to go against that and keep this more bolder grey pattern seen here up to this point. So once that's done, I just think it looks nicer, this end of the slab. There will always be a little bit of this finer detail at the lower end of the slab, but if I decide to cut the slab, say here, we're losing quite a bit of this bold sort of pattern. So once this is cut, I'm then going to start sanding the edge, tapering the edges. Then, also this face needs sanded, and then I'm going to lacquer the slab itself. So I will take this outside now and get started. Hopefully it goes well. Okay, so I'm ready to rock here. So I'll zoom in, nice and close here. So here we have a stainless guide that I have made up. So it's basically a piece of sheet stainless folded. Then we have this aluminium box section clamped together to form this nice guide. The red clamps are clamping the box section to the marble, to the existing table. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this here now, and hopefully it goes well. So the guide is set at 199mm from this edge. So here we go. One last thing. just wait that car passes. One last thing here, I have a wee bit of water trickling on it to keep the dust down. So here we go. Oh, need to put my mask on here. Good job. So I'll just take the camera off a stand here. So you may have noticed there when I was cutting that, I was keeping the grinder, the blade perpendicular to the face of the slab to give us this nice straight edge. So I will get this sanded here now, I'll get the guide removed and then we'll get this thing lacquered. Okay, so I'm going to start off here by sanding the edge that I just cut. So that's that edge done using 80 grit sandpaper. I'm now going to move on to this face using 400 grit. Well, I'm going to start off with 320. Making sure that these edges are tapered slightly. So I'll continue on here and then we'll get a coat of lacquer on this. Both sides and all these edges to protect from the frost. Okay, so I had to move to an 80 grit sandpaper there. Some of these stains within the surface of the marble are a little deeper than I thought. So once the 80 grit is complete, I'll then move to a finer grade, say 240, and then we'll start getting this thing lacquered. So you can see there now it's starting to look more whiter. We stain here. Okay, so we're nearly ready to get this marble slab lacquered here now. Okay, so I had to complete a wet sand there on the slab. So when I brought it into the garage here to be lacquered, I set it on these rests against this nail and or a screw, and the problem is I could see swirl marks left by the coarser grit sandpaper. So what I've done here now is basically went over it with a 400 grit using the water. So hopefully it should be like a matte finish now with all the glaze gone and no marks on the surface. So I will do the other sides too. They don't really need to be done, but I'm just going to do them anyway and then we'll move on to lacquering this. So hopefully it looks well when it's done. Okay, so finally the slab is prepped and ready to be lacquered. So what I'm going to do here first is lacquer the lower end here of the slab. So at this point, then when that's lacquered, I'm going to turn the slab 90 degrees vertical the way it was positioned to finish the lacquering step off or the lacquering process. So I'm going to go ahead here. So I'm only going to demonstrate this. I'm not going to go into it in too much detail because I don't want to wreck the camera. So I'll get started here. I'll put the mask on. So just to point out, the slab is currently held with a screw. So a screw is basically touching the slab at the back. I will do a video clip of that in a moment when the slab is lacquered. But for now, I just want to give a wee quick discussion here on how it's held and why I've held it this way. So at the bottom here, we have these two stainless steel brackets, which are used to keep the slab off the table. So we want minimal contact area. So I'm going to go ahead here and start lacquering this. Okay, so I have a mask on here, so we're going to now turn the slab 90 degrees onto these two feet, these two brackets. Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to finish this off here, hopefully it goes well.
Okay, now that the slab is lacquered, I've decided to make a reinforcement plate that will sit beneath the slab once the slab is placed on the grave. So the thickness of the plate here is 4mm, so this will help strengthen that part of the grave. So say if anybody stands on the marble slab, so I'm going to go ahead here now and cut this. So it'll be quite tough to cut. Good job. Okay, so on to the long side here. So again, using this grey box iron as a guide. Whew, grand job. Okay, so for this next task, I need to make sure that this stainless plate is as flat as possible. So as flat as I can get it. So believe it or not, when this sheet was formed, it becomes distorted, especially around the corners of the sheet, which is here. So I need to make sure that I get these curves out of the sheet so it doesn't interfere with the slab. So this is to keep minimal stresses within the slab, especially when the hot sun or even the frost gets it. So I'm just bouncing here to sort of push back on the curves, and it's looking good there now. Looking down at the four corners here, or the four edges. So we will get this now cleaned, and I will get it stuck or glued to the marble slab using some sort of adhesive. Well, it needs sealed around this edge here, around the perimeter, to keep the water from going beneath the slab or in between the slab and the stainless sheet. All's good. Okay, so I am back in the temporary spray booth. So here is the finish now within the slab. It looks like glass. A glass-like finish here. So I will give this a light sand near the end of the project and give it a polish to give it a better finish. Although the finish at the minute is perfect, but me being me, I'm just going to give it a wee flatten, a wee polish. So the next step now is gluing that slab, that finished slab, to this stainless plate, this reinforcement plate of the grave. So I'm going to place the camera on the stand here and complete this task once and for all. So the adhesive that I will be using will be this grip fill. So I'm going to seal around the outside perimeter, that is the main point to keep the water out. Then I will give it a lot of squiggly lines. So the reason that I will place a lot of grip fill on the stainless plate is to keep the slab from moving. Say in the future the slab cracks at this point, it's to keep this part of the slab intact. So hopefully that doesn't happen, but it's just like a measure that I'm
putting in place now for years to come. So I'll put the camera on the stand here and I will complete this task. Looking good. So a wee bit of thinners here to clean this stainless plate. So as you can see, the brushed face is to the other side of this finished marble face. So the stainless plate is exactly the same size as the slab. So about an inch in from the edge here to keep it from splattering out. So I need to be quick here because we don't want the grip full going off. Making sure that the perimeter is sealed. So that looks good now. So the final step here is placing the marble slab on the stainless. Oh dear. And hopefully it sinks down. So we'll move it side to side to get it to lower into the stainless plate. Wee bit of pressure pushing down on it, but not too much. So this has added a lot of strength to the slab. If you can imagine pressure being pushed onto the middle of it. Okay, so the final step here is lining this up to the stainless plate. So that looks good. So we're all complete. On to the next step. Good job. Okay, so I am getting closer to the finish line here. So one final task I want to complete. This is a task that was never planned, but I'm going to do it for reinforcement purposes. So if you can imagine now, if a child gets up onto the slab and starts bouncing on the slab, there's nothing to hold the slab in the middle. Well, technically there is the perimeter here around the outside with the stainless steel plate, but I think it's better that I have this additional reinforcement bar welded into this position. So what I'm going to do here now is go outside, cut this bar to length and notch it to suit the thickness of these two stainless sheets where they're joined together. So this should benefit the rigidity of the slab. So even if an adult was to get up on the slab and stand on it, this bar will be better there than not there, if that makes sense. So I'll go out and cut this bar now and we'll notch it and we'll get it welded in here. Okay, so that's the two ends slotted or notched. So we'll take this in now and get it welded to the surround. So what I'm doing here is removing any humps and bumps, any dips, so that the bar sits flush to the lips on the surround. Okay, so I'm going to use this car jack to hold the stainless bar into position to be welded. So checking it up here now, nice and tight. And we're going to centralize it, but first I want to point out this bar is level with these edges, these lips. So I have used a square here, I'll demonstrate that, the end of a rule to make sure that this stainless bar is running nice and flush to these lips. So I'll weld this now, but first I'll centralize it. Okay, so I can remove the jack and we'll weld this up fully. Good job. Just double check the measurements here, dimensions. Looks good. All complete. Good job. Okay, so let's just set this camera here. So that is the surround and the slab complete. So my next step now is taking the surround outside, applying pickling paste, that corrosive chemical sitting behind the camera. I think it's called benzoate paste. Something like that. There we go. So we're going to apply the pickling paste. We're going to power wash the surround. We're going to polish the slab, sand the slab, and then polish the slab. Then we're going to get this thing set into the garden. One final thing that's not here is the plaque holder. Also needs to be cleaned. So nearly finished. All's good. So it turned out really well. So going to remove this vinyl too, obviously, this film, this protective layer, and we're going to scour the surface of the entire surround to sort of like polish it, but keeping the brush marks or the brush finish. So that's it, outside now to get this thing cleaned and get the slab polished. So the grip fill has now set. It just doesn't creep out to the edge here as much as I wanted it to. But it's nearly there. It's around 5mm away from the edge and 10mm in places. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to seal it up using this well-known silicone CT1. So it's white. Hopefully it matches in. You'll not see it anyway, but let's give it a go here. One final thing before I do this. This is not really required. The water can't creep in completely beneath the slab, but it can creep in a wee bit. I don't think that's enough to bust it, as the gap here is only around 2mm wide. So I'm going to seal this up here. Squeezing it well in. So I'm making sure to get it down the full way here. Hence why the gun is sitting at this angle. The applicator gun. So looking good. So I'll just clean this off here now and do the other 4 edges. Doesn't need to be spotless, you're not going to see this, but so that looks good. I'll do the other 3 edges here and then we'll get this slab sanded and polished. Good job. Okay, so I had to call an end at this part of the video. In the next part 3, I will get this piece of marble sanded
laying polished, and all the stainless steel items treated with an acid, and finally washed. So there's a lot of work in this project. I didn't think it was going to be so much, but it's turning out well, starting to look very well. So after that, I will polish and scrub the stainless steel by hand. So what I say about polish, I'll be polishing all the weld burns out of the stainless steel surround, and also the grave marker, the plaque holder. So at the final part of that video, I will install or implant the surround into the ground at Asimo's burial plot. So this memorial will be so appealing to the eye when the shining grey white marble is placed within this special stainless steel surround. So this will appear in around maybe 1 to 2 weeks time, depending on the weather, because at the minute I can hear the windmill going crazy outside. So I had to do this outro indoors today because of that. So as I say, in 1 to 2 weeks time, this video will appear and all the final touches. So if you want to see this project evolve, please subscribe and hit the post notifications bell to see all the latest from my channel. So thank you everyone, and goodbye.